Hello chess friends and welcome to your Out of Chess channel and welcome to another incredible game of the Computer Bullet Chess Championship in 2023. We're now in the semi-final stage of this amazing chess event and we're following now a beautiful gameplay by the leader Stockfish against another top engine Ethereal in a beautiful Trompowsky attack in the so-called poison pawn variation. And if you are really interested more into the Trompowsky attack, if you really like this opening, I think this will be really an amazing game for you. I think this game is really instructive. Here you see the most important strategic concepts, but also many cool tactical ideas introduced to us here by the fish. So in my opinion, really an amazing game in this beautiful chess opening. So let's see now what happened. The fish with the white pieces opened with the move d4. We have a knight to f6 by Ethereal, bishop to g5, immediately the Trompowsky attack. The idea is in some lines to simply take out the knight and create a messed up pawn structure with e takes f6 or g takes f6, creating a double pawn structure on the f file. So c5, really one of the best ways to go. It's, I think, a very applicable method to simply battle for the d4 square, but also in the later stage also to attack the b2 weakness. So we have now the move d5. The game transposes now into the structures of the Benoni defense. In the Benoni you have e7 d6 c5, then you're trying to fianchetto a6 b5, but of course here after this method now comes this poison pawn variation with the move queen to b6. Now we have knight to c3. Stockfish invites now here the Ethereal engine to pick up now the pawn on b2, but here d6 was the pre-arranged knight by the organizer, so the engine had to play now the move d6. If you play queen takes b2, it leads, I think, into a very complicated line. Bishop to d2, b6, then you play e4. Maybe now d6 can happen, but now with the move f4, okay, white lost the pawn, but has, I think, a really good attack, has, I think, a good compensation, has a good activity for the lost pawn. So e5 will happen, rook to b1, knight to f3, bishop to b5. Every of this move, I think, is a good attacking move. So you see, for the lost pawn, white will simply be on the attacking side. But okay, after move knight to c3, as we said, we have now the move d6, e4, g6, bishop to b5, bishop to d7, covering, and now here a4, which is, I think, also a very common method in Benoni structures, in also, of course, these types of positions. A4 is, of course, keeping a grip here on light squares, keeping a grip on square b5, but also it prevents in long runs this a6 b5 method that black would love to play, maybe a6 b5, let the pawns roll here on the queen side, and then with the support of the bishop creating further tactical mass on the queen side. So that's why here a6 immediately. We have a5, good move by the Stockfish engine. First the queen has to retreat, and now after move bishop to d3, now bishop to g7, h3, preventing bishop to g4 or knight to g4. We have now bishop to b5 by Ethereal, and now knight to f3. Bishop takes d3, queen to d3, and now knight from b to d7. And okay, this is now a playable position for both sides, with, of course, opportunities here for black to attack the queen side, but also in long runs to play rook to e8 and then break here the space advantage around the square e6, and then also to maybe attack the backward pawn on e4. The pawn on e4 is becoming many times a huge positional problems for white in these types of structures. So that's why white would love somehow, if possible, to advance the pawn, maybe with e5 or something to break and enter. So let's see now how both engines handled this really strategic position. So calcing, we have a rook to a3, preventing maybe the move b5 in the later stage of the game. You can also play in some lines a rook to b3, then you have a great control maybe here around the square b6. You can maybe try some ideas of, I don't know, rook to b3, knight to d2, knight to c4, and then have a great control of the b6, where never really allow black to play the move b5 for himself. But it's a long run, of course. b3 is so far not possible because you get the fourth, but as a strategic defensive goal, I think this is applicable here for white. So we have rook from f to e8. Now comes this plan e6. We have now knight to d2. We have also seen now this plan, knight to d2, knight to c4, controlling the square b6. Now comes e6, d takes e6, and now rook to e6. Here the Ethereal engine is keeping more pressure against this now weak pawn on e4, and you can always protect it with the move f3. But that's something that I would really suggest you to avoid, because if you play f3, then you have too many dark square problems. Then you provoke simply too many structural weaknesses in front of your own king. So here after move f4, Stockfish is trying to do something with his pawns. He's trying here to maybe break and enter with move e5, or maybe, if possible, also with the move f5. So here we have c4, we have queen to f3. Knight to c4 wouldn't be so good, because then knight to c5 comes with the tempo, and you lose now this very important pawn, and you don't have any more two connected pawns that are rolling here in the center of the board. So queen to f3, the best move here for white. Rook to c8, king to h1, b5. Now comes this goal, but of course now comes en passant. So this is a good move for white, because black doesn't have these pawns connected. Now after a takes b6 en passant, the pawns are disconnected, and they're becoming now also positional problems in the later stage of the game. So we have queen to b6 attacking the pawn on b2, rook to b1, h6, bishop to h4, queen comes here on c6, but now Stockfish noticed that the pawn is of course not attacked anymore. Stockfish makes now a counter attack here around the square a6, queen to b7. The Ethereal engine does the same. Rook takes, queen takes, again the rook attacks the queen has to now step back, and now knight to f1. Stockfish is searching for opportunities, maybe to play something like knight to e3, knight to d5, controlling this square. Maybe also later rook to d1, maybe battling against this backward pawn on d6. But still, white has this problem of the e4 pawn. White has to first somehow defend his pawn and maybe regroup, and then maybe go for a break and enter with his pawn structure. So rook to e8, we have bishop to f2 hitting the queen. Now again the knight comes into the game, and now f move g5, g3 played by Stockfish. So if f takes g3, sorry, f takes g3, f takes g3, again both of these pawns will be connected, and now in some lines also the g file could be opened. Look at this. Then it could be dangerous if one of these knights comes maybe on f5, hitting the bishop on g7 with the support of the rook. The king could be naked here of black. So after move g3, we have now the move queen to c8, now rook to a7. Now Stockfish waited when the Ethereal engine stepped back from the b file, because many times this move queen to b2 was very annoying to handle. Now when the queen is not there, rook to a7, we have knight to c5, bishop to c5, and now queen to c5. And now comes what is, in my opinion, the critical moment of the game. Maybe you can pause the video and try to see now the best continuation here for white. So keep in mind what we have talked about in the beginning of this opening. What kind of a goal are we having here from white's perspective? What do we want to play actually in the Benoni defense? What's our key goal, key concept, key strategic idea, key also tactical approach? So pause the video and try to see now really the best continuation here for white. It's, I think, a beautiful and amazing strategic move that you have to simply recognize in your own games. Okay, the brilliant idea, and I think from this point on black is collapsing. Simply here comes the brilliant e5, and this move is so amazing, because it seems so you lose simply the pawn here on e5. But look at this, what happens if d takes e5 happens. Then we have this one. We are playing f takes g5. Now if black, for instance, pushes the pawn, because if he doesn't push the pawn, then we create a blockade here. We'll play knight from c2 or d to e4. We'll keep the blockade. And also look at this, after d takes e4, we can simply take. Look at this, if you take knight to e4, then you're getting destroyed here with queen to f7, and then it's a checkmate here on g7. So it's not working. You could of course take out with the rook, but the problem is now after knight to e4, also your knight is saying, again, you cannot take out with the knight. Again, you're falling apart here around the square f7. If you take with the rook, then we'll simply pick up here the knight on f6, and again the game would be over. So see, e5, brilliant move. Now comes queen to d4, attacking the pawn, but now a knight to e4, a follow-up. First we play the pawn move, and then we have the follow-up of the knight. Now the knight comes on a beautiful square. We have knight to e4, we have knight takes e4, we have rook to e7, rook to a6, attacking now the pawn. Now comes d takes e5, but it was only a temporarily pawn sacrifice. Now comes f takes e5, and look at this, f takes g5, pardon me, after h takes g5. Now look at this bishop, the dark square bishop, is simply paralyzed by its own pawn structure. The knight is controlling the life push, and in some lines we can even play g4, h4 is a possibility. But the most important thing here to notice is that black cannot push the pawn on f5. This square is taken, and look at this, the knight on e4 is simply a beautiful piece. We have a great battery on the a file, so all of the pieces I think of whites are playing now in beautiful harmony. So okay, black can maybe somehow defend his position. I think maybe in sort of a master level, maybe black can hang on to this position somehow. But in top engine level, look how Stockfish is dismantling now this position. Play simply h4, simply continues the pressure after queen to d7. For instance, if you play g takes h4, then we first kick away the queen. You can maybe try something like this, but again, after g takes h4, the g file would be opened. That's the issue here. Again, the same tactical problems. We can even include the queen into the attack. This rook is active. We can even in some lines push the pawn. h5, h6 is an opportunity. So again, game over, I think, simply here for black. So after move h4, that's why the Ethereal engine tried to somehow battle here, trying an annoying check on h3, but Stockfish simply locks the long diagonal, and now after rook to f8, h takes g5, and now this bishop is simply paralyzed. Really wild stuff. The rooks are very active, so from this point on is, I think, really bad strategic game for black. So rook to e6, rook to a7, attacking the queen. Queen comes on d4. We have now c3, again an attack against the queen. Queen drops back to d7, and now Stockfish plays simply more active with the king, because there's simply no other improvement of other pieces. The knight is centralized already. The queen is good here, controlling the f6 square. Rooks are good. The pawns are holding the position. So now you have to even at least improve your position of the king. So rook to b6, queen to f5, good move. If you play queen to f5, then g takes f5, connects the pawns. They're mobile again, so it's not a good continuation for black. So that's why Ethereal tried the check. But now a beautiful move here again by Stockfish, king to f3. It seems that the king is endangered on this really annoying square sort of, but in my opinion nothing can happen here for the king, so the king is perfectly fine here. So rook to g6, rook to a7, queen to b2, attacking now the pawn, but you cannot take the pawn. If you take here queen to c2, then you get knight to f6, discovered attack against the queen. The game is over for black. So after king to g3, we have queen to b6, queen drops back to f3 here, and now after a couple of attacks against the queen, now Stockfish finally try to trade off the rooks. We have rook to e6, rook takes f8, king takes f8, king to h3. Again, it's simple but very subtle improvement of the king. We have queen to c6, queen to f5, and now rook to e7, simply trying to get the rook into the game. For instance, if you play here queen to b6, then rook to f1 is also an opportunity. There's simply too many options here for whites to attack black's position. So after move queen to f5, we have rook to e7. Now there is this threat of rook to d1, so that's why here queen to e6, at least liberating some kind of a square for the king. But now rook to f1, again with the checkmate threat on f7. We have rook to e7, knight to f6 here by Stockfish. If you play bishop to f6, then g takes f6, connects the pawns. Queen to h7, then followed with queen to h8 would be a checkmate threat. So after move knight to f6, we have queen to a6, rook to d1, we have queen to e8, and now beautiful move queen to e4. Simply trying to deflect the queen from the back rank. Now if you take the queen on e4, you get even checkmated here by the beautiful knight and rook's activity. So after move queen to e4, that's why rook to b7, but now after queen to h7, there is this threat of queen to g8. After move queen to b8, now a beautiful move here by Stockfish, playing a rook to d7, and there's nothing that can be done. If you don't react to this move, you get checkmated. If you react like the Ethereal engine did, we have knight to d7, the fork, and the game is over. So incredible game by the fish. Really interesting ideas of the Trompowsky attack for sure. I really loved this approach. Really, first of all, playing the poison pawn, and then later activating the pieces. I think the most important move of this game was the brilliant move e5. this move let the position simply explode in the center of the board. We have seen if it play d takes e5, then we have this one. We have a great control of the e4 square, and there is also the possible tactic around this pawn on f7. So, okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. Really interesting ideas of the Trompowsky attack. If you want to see more beautiful, sharp tactical games like this, check out our The Chess Games Played by Computers. Here's the link of our playlist, and if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say? Chess is the best, of course.